Hi everyone. So today what we're going to be working on is graphing systems of inequalities. So what that entails is graphing two inequalities on the same coordinate plane and seeing where their shading overlaps. And any point in that overlapping shaded region is considered a solution to the system. So if I look at my problem that I have up on my screen, I have two inequalities. So I'm going to treat them almost like two separate problems in the beginning. So I have y is greater than or equal to x plus 8. So the nice thing is it's already in slope-intercept form. So when I look at my inequality, I know that the slope is the coefficient of my x term. So my slope is going to be 1 over 1. And my y-intercept is the number without the x. So as a point is going to be the point 0, 8. So I'm going to go to my coordinate plane. I'm going to go to 0, 8 because that is my y-intercept. I'm going to put a dot. Then if I go up one to the right one for my slope, up one, right one, and put another dot, it's going to create my increasing line. Now I look at my inequality symbol. Okay, that inequality symbol is a greater than or equal to sign. So that means that I'm going to have a solid line because I have an equal to bar, so I'm not going to change the line. And the greater than means I'm going to be shading above. So if I hit change shade, that would be below. So if you look at my mouse, anything below, so if I put a down arrow, that would be below. So I want to change it so that it's above that line. Okay, so that's my first inequality. My second inequality is y is greater than negative 3x minus 4. Again, it's in slope-intercept form. So my slope is in negative 3, which I'm going to put over 1, and my y-intercept is 0, negative 4. So I come over to my graph. I'm going to graph a completely separate line. This one has a y-intercept of 0, negative 4. So I'm going to go down to negative 4 on my y-axis and put a dot. Then from that dot, I'm going to count down 1, 2, 3 to the right one and put my second dot. So I have a decreasing line as I go from left to right. Okay. So this one was increasing because it had a positive slope. My other line is decreasing because it has a negative slope. So I look at my inequality sign. My inequality sign says greater than. It doesn't have an equal to bar, so I need to change this line to be a dotted line. It's a greater than, so if I pick any point on my line and go up from there, I'm going to be shading on this side of my dotted line. Oops, sorry. So I want to change the shade, so that would be greater than. So it's nice here because it kind of shows you in two different colors. The blue was the shading on my first line. The green is the shading on my second line. So this area right here, okay, the top center is where the two shadings overlap. So at the bottom, it asks me for a point that is a solution. So it says solve the following system of inequalities graphically. So that's what I just did on the set of axes below, and then state the coordinates of a point in the solution set. So I can pick any point in this section. So say if I pick the point negative 3, 7. So negative 3, 7 is in this section where my two shadings overlap. So I'm going to go down here. So there's not one correct answer, right? There are many correct answers. So I go to my keyboard and I want negative 3. And then comma, I can't see it, so didn't put my negative sign in there. So let's go back to the keyboard. And I want to put a negative 3. Then in my y coordinate, I'm going to put a positive 7. Okay, so submit answer. So again, I could have picked any point. So if I by chance got it wrong, okay, their sample point was negative 4, 9, which is also, if you notice, in that shaded region, but you can pick any point here. So there's lots of different answers that you could submit and get correct. Okay, see how it says many other possible points. right, let's try another one. So they're both in slope-intercept form. So my first line has a y-intercept of -7, so I go down to -7. But my point, I have a slope of a +1. My slope is not x. It's the one that's sneakily sitting in front that we don't need to write all the time. So from this point, I'm going to go up 1 to the right 1 and put a dot. Notice I don't have an equal to line, so I'm going to change my line from a solid to a dotted. I have a greater than symbol, so I need to make sure that from this line I'm shading above it. So I'm going to change my shade. That would be above, so I'm going to keep it right there. Now I'm ready to graph my second line. I see that it has a y-intercept of -3, so I'm going to put a dot at -3. Then I have a slope of -3, so I'm going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3 to the right 1. Okay, so they're going to intersect right here at 1, -6. I look at my inequality sign. It does not have an equal to bar, so I have to change my line to a dotted line. And I also have greater than, so above this line is going to be over here in this region. So if I change shade, so that would be below. I'm going to change it again so it's above. So this huge region here is the region of my solution. So I can pick any point in this region. So I'm going to make my life pretty easy. And the origin is in this overlapping region. So I'm going to pick the point 0, 0. Okay, submit my answer. And again, I got it correct. And if you notice in the example, it gives you a sample point. Their point was also in the shaded region, but there's many, many possible solutions. Okay. All right, let's try another one. Okay, here my y-intercept is a -3, so I go to -3. So this is a great practice of just graphing lines too. My slope is a 3/2, so I'm going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3, to the right 1, 2, and put a dot. I have an equal to bar on my inequality, so it's going to be a solid line. So I'm going to keep it exactly how it is. And it's a greater than symbol, so I'm shading above. So that would be shading below. That's down from my line, so I want to shade above. So I change that shading. Now I'm ready to draw my second inequality. So I go up to a +8 as the y-intercept. My slope is negative, so I'm going down 1, but I go to the right 3 to make sure that my line is falling as I go from left to right. So notice this one's going up because it has a positive slope. This one's going down because it has a negative slope. I don't need to change the line because it has an equal to line, and I have a solid line here. But this time it's a less than, so instead of shading above my line, I'm going to make sure I shade below. Change my shade, that would be below my line. So this wedge right here, okay, kind of with that no symbol, everything here is the solution. So again, I can pick the point 0, 0 if I want. I can pick any point in this region. Okay, so if I scroll down, I said I'm just going to make my life easy and use 0, 0. Okay, their point that they picked was -7, -10, because that's in that overlapping region. All right, we'll do one more. So this time I have a y-intercept of -8. Notice I always go to the number off the back to start my line. I put a dot at -8. I have a slope of -2, so I'm going to go down 2 to the right 1. Make sure my line is falling. I do not have an equal to bar, so I'm going to change my line from a solid line to a dotted line. It's a less than symbol, so I'm shading below, okay, kind of where that point is. So I'm going to change my shade to below. Now I'm ready to do my second line. It has a y-intercept of 1. Oh, take that point off. And then this has a slope of 1 because there isn't a written coefficient, so I can assume that it's 1. So I'm going to go up 1 to the right 1, making sure I'm increasing as I go from left to right. This one does have an equal to bar, so I have a solid line, so I'm going to keep this line. It's a greater than symbol, so I'm shading above, so I'm going to be shading up here as opposed to down here. So that would be above. This is my overlapping region right here. So say if I wanted to pick a point, I could pick the point, I don't know, negative 7, 1, which would be right here, which would be in that overlapping shaded region. So I go to my keyboard and I want to go negative 7, 1. Just double check. All right, submit my answer. All right, and that's correct. So that's going to be your Delta Math assignment on systems of inequalities. You will graph each inequality separately and then pick a point from the region where the two shadings overlap. Okay, if you have any questions, please let me know. Bye.